This is Can I Laugh on Your Shoulder? So excited to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be doing this.
I'm not going to lie. When I had you on my calendar and I was obviously, as I was doing my research, I was real sad for some reason that you did not have an Irish accent. I was just like, for some reason, like as a fellow, like person of Irish descent, like the name Clare McCallan, like it just really seems like you're supposed to have an Irish accent speaking from the back of the throat, but alas.
I'm there with you. It's so funny you bring it up. I was just thinking about it this morning. My family's from Northern Ireland. I do spend a lot of time over there, and I hate that I don't have an Irish accent. I hate that I quit Irish dance lessons when I was in 5th grade because I would love to be able to do that. And I was just thinking this morning, it's time for me to rewatch Derry Girls.
Yes. Well, I did ancestry DNA because like I'd always been told that my entire family's Irish. Like my main name was Buckley, birth name was Molly Eileen Buckley, like very, very Irish. My dad's mom was like Erla Kavanaugh. I mean, it's just like for Irish names on both sides of my family. But I was like, I need to do some ancestry DNA and like I need to see. And it came back, it was like 76% Irish and then like 22% Scottish. I was like, okay, yeah. So basically the same thing. Like, yes, the DNA doesn't lie. But yeah, and then one of my best friends is from Ireland and she does have an Irish accent. And it's lovely. But it's so funny because when her parents come to visit, like we always hang out, and her dad, like the first few times that we hung out, I was like, I think I need closed captions for your dad. Like, I don't actually know what he's saying.
I know. I'm sitting here being like, it's lovely. It's lovely. Not where my family comes from. In Dublin, it's lovely. Where my family comes from, I think you spend enough time with the cows, you start to sound like them. You don't close their mouths in between letters. It's just one big open noise.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Well, regardless, you have a lovely Irish name, and I'm so excited to get to know you and to introduce you to the listeners. So I would love for you to do what all my guests do, and that's please give us Claire McCallan, the Claire McCallan 101.
Okay. So my name's Claire McCallan. I am Irish American. Let's see. What is there to know about me? I turn 30 in like 3 weeks. Very exciting.
Hey, by the time this airs, you will be 30, and happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm excited. I wasn't having any 30 anxiety. And then once I hit the 1 month, I was like, okay, we're an adult woman now. But I'm really excited. I am an author of the book that we're going to chat about today. It's called Courage to Create. And it's all about helping young people of faith step into their birthright as they're made in the image of their Father, the Creator, who they are as craftsmen and all of us in our inherent artistry, and living a creative life and walking in Jesus's footsteps as creatives. So that's a big part of what I do. I also host a morning show on Catholic TV called This Is the Day. I have my own TV show, which is really exciting. It's called The Renaissance Room. It's kind of like a variety show for young Catholic artists where we platform them. Where you are seeing me right now, this crazy ceiling and everything, this is St. Joseph's Home for Artisans. So this is the art residency that I created along with a couple of my best friends 3 years ago. We gutted this old convent here in the north end of Boston, and there are 7 bedrooms. It's a perk of having a convent, 7 tiny bedrooms, but they don't have any closets because nuns don't need closets because they only have one outfit. And we house young Catholic musicians, videographers, dancers, writers, you name it here. That's a day-to-day, a lot of what I do. I stayed on as the creative director after we opened it. I'm a film critic for the National Catholic Reporter and the Christian Channel, and I am just a very blessed young lady. I live in a great neighborhood near the water. I get to pet a lot of dogs every day. I definitely love the freelancer lifestyle. I enjoy a lot of flexibility. I get to travel a lot, which is a gift, and I'm happy to be here today.
I love it. Well, I am curious where, obviously you live such a creative life. You're in a creative space. Were you always a kid who loved to paint and to draw and tell us about your creative journey and how eventually that led you to realize that there was actually an intersection with your faith?
It's a really great question. I was a creative kid, and then those gifts that would go on to re-manifest themselves someday as spoken word poetry and writing books, they took a funny turn maybe when I was around 15, and I left my musical theater and all the things I enjoyed, and I got into debate and politics. And it was it's such a weird thing to say. I was a very political teenager and young adult, and in college, like I was constantly flying all over to go to these young activist conferences. And I spent every summer that I was in college down in DC working for these really hardcore organizations and congressmen. I was interning in Congress when I was 18 years old. I was all about it. Became a very uptight person. Really, the joke is I really did look like a little Hillary Clinton. I was constantly walking around in my little pantsuits. I had every color, clicking through the walls of Congress. I was like 18 and very, very self-serious, I would have to say, pretty rigid. And that was my plan. And to be honest, if I had gone on that route, first of all, I'd make a lot more money. But I was speeding along down that path. And then my senior year of college, two things happened that changed my life. Right before my senior year, I took the summer to backpack across Europe. And that was really interesting because I think that was my first time really, really encountering people whose experience and worldview was polar opposite than mine. And it was just so eye-opening. And the experience of backpacking alone throughout Europe really is going to cost you some of your rigidity. I think it helped temper me a little bit. And I just left questioning the narrowness of my own worldview. And then the other thing, pretty much as soon as I got back and started my senior year of college, the much larger catalyst was that I lost a family member. And it was my first tragic loss, and it was very upsetting, very hard. And I just lost my marbles. I think whatever things had been, in many ways, it was just like a straightforward grief, and in many ways it wasn't. I think there were so many things that I had been holding on to, and it's just like the one big loss came and knocked out the floodgates. And I just tell everybody it's truly the feeling of losing your marbles and just watching everything spill out. And I just was never able to go back to who I was before that and how I saw the world before that rigidity. I couldn't spend any more time in politics where you really do have to muster a certain amount of vitriol on a daily basis. I just couldn't do it. And I took a big step back, and I needed to take a year to sort of collect myself, maybe honestly more like 2 years. And I ended up in Calcutta serving missionaries of charity. I know, and then it's like jump. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of those amazing people who read Saint Mother Teresa biographies and was like, this is what I want to do. I just got a phone call and I had nowhere else to go. And someone was like, do you want to go to Calcutta? And I was like, anything to get out of here. So that's what happened. I wasn't like this beautifully mission driven person. And I always like to mention that because I think a lot of people think like God calls the dumb and lost. It's okay. You don't have to be this super valiant soldier. So I was just dumb and lost and desperate, and he can use that. He can work with that. So I end up in Calcutta. I'm serving with the Missionaries of Charity. It's totally changing my life, changing my heart. I get super sick. While I'm there, I'm bedridden. I end up discovering spoken word poetry while I'm bedridden for 3 weeks. And I decide, it was just this Holy Spirit feeling of like, if I can, I don't know, if I felt like I watched spoken word poetry and I thought like, I could do this. It makes no sense. But also like he uses everything, like all of those debate classes, all of that politics, they're transferable skills. I was like, I'm going to move to New York City when I get out of Calcutta, and I'm going to go for it. And that's what I did. I moved to New York. I got involved on the spoken word scene, and that turned into touring with spoken word. It went really well. That turned into being on TV, writing books, opening an art residency. So, there's a long answer to your question, but it's just kind of an unusual one because like it was always there. It was there when I was a kid, and then life happens. And even by the time you're 15 years old, you know you're not going to be on Broadway, and you're getting these other options, and the people make it really, really attractive. Like there's a lot of attractive reasons to get into these other fields, but God came and scooped me back.
Yeah. Well, I love how you talk about like nothing is wasted, and I think that that's an important lesson for so many of us. That's one that I've learned. I'm not 40 yet, but I am pretty close to approaching 40. And I think that's something that in the last 4 to 5 years, I've really settled into this piece of there's so many examples or instances in my life where I've done something, where I have, gained a skill set, or I've had an experience that in my I don't want to say later adulthood because I'm not a late adult, but you know what I mean? Like as I get more into adulthood, where I realize like that's why I learned that skill set, or like that's why I have this particular experience that then I can use for whatever project I'm working on, or use, to serve the kingdom in some way. And so I think that that's just an encouragement to a lot of people that maybe sometimes feel, especially as they get older, like, oh, well, why, like I did this thing when I was 20, or I did this thing when I was 25, and I'm not using this skill set, or I'm not doing this, that, and the other. It's like, no, actually that was all like a puzzle piece to get to where you are. And also I think it's an encouragement as well to get back to doing something you maybe once really loved doing and put aside because of age or time or whatever. Like I have a really good friend who was a dancer as a girl and like did competitive dance and all of that. And about a year and a half ago, she has 3 kids, and she was like, why can't I take a dance class? Like I loved to dance. I quit dancing when I was, 20, and she's 37. And she was like, why can't I take a dance class? And so she did. She went and she found an adult hip hop dance class, and she took it, and she's like, she fell back in love with dance. And now once a week, she teaches a night dance class for adults, and it's helped other women and men like fall back in love with something they maybe did a long time ago. And it's just become this like really beautiful thing to see people tap into maybe a creative outlet that they let go for some reason.
I agree. And I think you see a lot of people pick it back up in their retirement years.
Yes.
I personally feel that that's a really long time to wait in your life for I tell everybody, like, you look the most like your dad when you act like him, and we serve the creative God, the creator. It's kind of the thing he does. So like you want to be united with him, even something as silly as taking your favorite hip hop class or doing any of these, like it is going to unite you, and it has a spiritual impact.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I know, and we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, is the importance of community in nurturing creativity and serving the Lord as an artist. And I say this as like I'm in a creative field, but I cannot draw or paint. So I want to like throw this out there that creatives don't just mean like physical art. Like I am a creative and literally cannot draw to save my life. So I want to be super clear about that, but community plays a big role in this. And, I know for me, like I'm a writer, and so sometimes for me, my best writing happened when I was alone. However, there were times where I would just feel really stuck. And so I would go and I would have lunch with a friend, or I would go and I would be in community with other people. And something about that would then inspire me to then go and do the thing that I have to do alone. But, then there'd even be times where I would go to my husband and say like, hey, can you help me like make this particular thing sound stronger or whatever? Like community plays such a deep role. And so I'd love for you to share your own experience and even a little bit of like what you're going through now.
Yeah. So we have had this house now for 3 years, and I think we've housed like 40 young people, and it's mostly been really, really good. We've also had the bad and the ugly, and those just best stories of your life. Like nothing happened that wasn't able to be handled or undone. It's like I tell everybody, it's like you always watch Friends and New Girl, and you think like, oh, that looks so fun. It is so fun. As someone who's living it, it's so fun. It's also so chaotic. And there are a lot of really hard things about living in community, because this is tight community. And I tell everyone there's a reason that the only people who live like this are nuns and brothers, because this only really works if you like vow to give up everything else. Otherwise, your tight community is really hard, but it's really good. And especially right now with this sort of unprecedented rise of single young adults, we're seeing people who in previous generations would have been married. We have a ton of people in their 20s and 30s who aren't. And they could go live alone, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there is also something really special about offering people the familial living experience that they're not getting otherwise. And especially also in a major city like Boston, people are just isolated and people are lonely and don't have this kind of community. What we're going through right now, one of the people very heavily involved in our community is sick, and he'll be all right, but he's pretty sick, and he'll be totally fine. And we've spent all week in the hospital, and it's just been unbelievable to watch our community show up for him and to show up through art. Every night we have our artists who live here and our alum and bands that have started from this space show up to his hospital room with guitars, and everybody sings and they pray the rosary, and it's just like the power of art and music and creativity in this space combined with community and so moving. And the gift that you can give, the dual gifts of community and creativity when someone is suffering and when one of our own is suffering. And you don't know, I'm not a mom yet, but I have to assume this is what it feels like to watch them all come back for this person, show up for him, and to do the things, the gifts that you invested in them, and to see the fruit. And the fruit doesn't always have to be that they got a record deal or that their book was published or whatever. The fruit is that they show up and they use beauty and goodness and truth to really, I think, help keep spirits up, and I would say move towards healing. So it's been a really beautiful week to see fruit here. We just celebrated 3 years of this place, and like it's been a ton of work and a lot of like, is it worth it? Am I a crazy person? And that has been some of the most tangible fruit that we've had. It's just been, you take all the exhibits and the concerts and all of our artists win awards. It's amazing, but this has been really, really special.
Wow. Wow. That's really powerful. And I think is such an encouragement too for people. And I love that you really pointed out like people who, I guess our culture, our society in general has historically not created an environment for, adult singles to be in community with one another. The church has historically not like harbored a community for singles. Well, I've seen a shifting tide in that, but I think it's so important and so valuable for especially for just an encouragement for my listeners who are single. Like, just because you're single, like, doesn't mean you can't be in community. It doesn't mean you can't like have a flourishing, beautiful, thriving life. Like, you're not defined by your marital status or your status as a mother or a father, but you are defined by what God has called you to and created you for. And so I just think it's a really beautiful example, especially an encouragement for people who are older and single and maybe sometimes feel like left out by the church.
It's a massive demographic change, and unfortunately it's no institution can ever move as quickly as the problem does, right? They're catching up with it.
Yeah.
But backhand of, or receiving the backhand of the hookup culture, dating apps, we all know all of this, but it's a massive demographic change. Men and women are both left unpartnered at a later age. Okay, what do we do about it? How do we create community? How do we show up for people? Because our friend in the hospital isn't married, doesn't have kids, his family lives states away, and they come, but okay, who shows up for you? And to look and see, and that speaks to the person who's sick right now. Like, it's the relationships you invest in, and you can still have that community, and you can still, like, the doctors came in and it was just me and his family, and I don't look like them, I'm not Filipino, and the doctors come in and they're like, who are these people? And he just goes, family. And I was like, yeah, like that really is what we've created here. So I just agree with everything.
Okay, well, I want to really have you dive into your new book, which came out in April. So congratulations on releasing your book, Courage to Create. What was the catalyst for writing this particular book at this particular time?
Yeah. If nothing else, I needed to create a record of what has happened over the last 3 years here creating St. Joe's, because I really want other people to do it. We've got massive amounts of unused church spaces and spaces that are going to be condemned and sold off. And I really want, hopefully there's somebody or a couple somebodies who receive this book and they think, wait, we could do that here. I really, but it's larger than that because the book tells stories back from when I started in New York and my messy journey as a young artist. And this book hopefully is going to reach two groups of people. It's hopefully going to reach young creatives who are like, I want to do this. I want to be brave. I want to be bold. I want to affect culture, and thus affect the world through creativity. And this is going to give them a little bit of a roadmap of how to do that, hopefully, and to show them also you can do that. And maybe they can borrow some of the bravery that has happened here with young people stepping into this vocation. And the other group that I hope receives this are people who don't consider themselves creatives. Because I disagree. And people are like, I get so many of these interviews where people are like, well, I'm not a creative, but, and it's like, well, I just don't, literally can't be possible. I don't want to be aggressive about it, but you're wrong. Like, because if you were made in the image of the creator, then you're a craftsman. That's a JP2 term, but you're a creative. We're not him. We don't make something from nothing. He's the only one who does that. But then he made everything, and those are our tools. So, and I tell everybody, like, even when I have an idea, something to write about, it's still not unique to me. I don't consider myself having unique thoughts, which actually pretty controversial to say in the larger world. I guess there's a lot of people who could see this, and this will get used against me 20 years from now. Hello, future Claire. Stay strong. But yeah, she doesn't have unique thoughts, but it's for everyone. We are all creative, and the moment that you accept that part of your identity, it adds so much richness to your life, especially even just the domestic life. There's so much when you see yourself as a creative and an artist in your space. I tell everybody, think about how you feel when you're cooking a great meal. There's so much of that creativity there, and just so much about prolific love and the ways we love people and act in our homes and in our lives. So those are the two groups of people that I really hope reach for the book.
One of the elements that I know that you include throughout the book are stories from artists and creatives that you've worked with. And is there one in the last few minutes that we have together? I love hearing really powerful stories. And so I would love for you to share maybe a story in particular that just has really stuck out to you, or just one that you just love to tell.
Yeah, I don't know a story per se, but just someone who I really want to shout out. My friend Karina is interviewed in the book, and she owns and operates two shelters, one on either side of the border, one in El Paso and one in Juarez. And I've spent a lot of time down there with her. She's down there. Destiny from New Wave Feminists is down there with her. And they are shelters for pregnant women and women who stay there with their babies on either side. And to see the way that she has worked creativity into mission work and into humanitarian aid has been unbelievable. And she's such an incredible poet and just passionate about art. And to watch her marriage of just creativity and mission work has been unbelievable. And I would just really encourage people to read the section about her, to go check out her organization. Really, really phenomenal work. And it's something that we could all do, even if you're already knee deep in mission and you're like, well, I don't want to mission drift. You don't need to mission drift in order to step into your creativity.
What is next on your, obviously putting out a book takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. And I know obviously continuing the work that you're doing at St. Joe's, but do you have any particular like creative projects that you're really excited about and you're working on right now?
I'm taking a bit of a chill pill because my TV within 6 months of each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll tour with the book in the fall at universities. Yeah, actually, it's a very astute question. I am taking the summer to enjoy, for me, writing a dystopian novel.
Ooh, okay.
Having like a lot of fun with it. So that's my summer project.
That's so fun. So I just released my first book in the spring, and it was a memoir, and there's like this bug that won't really leave me, that I'm like, I think I'm supposed to write a novel too, but I don't know what it is. And so like I told my husband, I was like, I'm taking the summer, like I'm trying not to work this summer really. Like I'll put the podcast out, but that's like pretty much all I'm going to do this summer, because I want to spend it really with my kids. And I just want to kind of take a breath. Like you were saying, is like, I'm taking a chill pill, and then like just be in prayer about like wherever God's guiding. I don't think a dystopian novel is within my, but like a rom-com, I could do a rom-com. Who knows? I don't know, but that's not something I'm diving into right this minute. But you saying that just now is like, all right, maybe I could do a novel. Who knows? Claire, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for just encouraging other creatives, especially in the faith space. And I love the intersection of faith and creativity, and I would love to see more of it in our current day and age, music and art and books and literature and all of it. So it just makes me really happy. So thank you so much for being here.